Search his name today and you will find it. T.D. Jakes arrested. T.D. Jakes finally behind bars. T.D. Jakes sentenced to life. Thumbnails with red arrows, mugshot-style photos. All caps text screaming that one of America's most famous preachers is done, locked up, gone forever. None of it is true. T.D. Jakes has not been arrested. He has not been charged with a crime. He has not been sentenced. He has not spent a single night behind bars. As of 2026, he is still preaching at the Potter's House in Dallas, still leading a congregation of thousands, still walking free. And yet millions of people believe otherwise, because the internet decided his guilt long before any court did. This is the story of how that happened. Not the story of a scandal that was proven, but the story of a rumor that was manufactured, amplified, and monetized, and what it says about the world we now live in, where a headline can travel around the globe before the truth has even finished tying its shoes. To understand how T.D. Jakes arrested became one of the most searched phrases connected to his name, you have to go back to February 2024. That is when producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones filed a federal lawsuit in New York against Sean Diddy Combs, seeking $30 million in damages. Jones's filing did not name Jakes as a defendant. It did not accuse him of a crime. What it did was reference audio recordings in which Combs allegedly discussed leveraging his relationship with Jakes to soften the fallout from a separate sexual abuse lawsuit filed weeks earlier by Cassie Ventura. That single reference was enough. Within days, Jakes' name was sitting next to Combs's in headline after headline, even though the actual legal claim made no allegation of wrongdoing by Jakes himself. For a media ecosystem built on speed rather than accuracy, that distinction did not matter. A famous pastor's name had touched one of the biggest scandals in entertainment history, and that was the only ingredient the algorithm needed. Within days, YouTube channels with names built for virality started uploading videos claiming Jakes had attended Combs's so-called freak-off parties. Thumbnails showed doctored images and dramatic red text. Some videos claimed inside sources. Most cited nothing at all. None of them offered court documents, sworn testimony, or verified reporting. What they offered was a story people were primed to believe, delivered with the visual grammar of breaking news. There is a reason rumors like this move faster than corrections ever can, and it has less to do with T.D. Jakes specifically than with how modern platforms are built. Shock content performs. A video suggesting a beloved public figure has fallen from grace triggers curiosity, outrage, and the urge to share, all of which are the exact signals recommendation algorithms are designed to reward. A calm, accurate video explaining that no such arrest occurred does not carry the same emotional charge, so it does not spread the same way. The incentive structure of platforms like YouTube and TikTok does not distinguish between a true story and a compelling one. It only measures engagement, and false claims about a celebrity's downfall are, unfortunately, extremely engaging. Layered on top of that was Jakes' existing public profile. He was already a lightning rod for controversy long before 2024. His theology had drawn criticism from some evangelical leaders over his background in oneness Pentecostalism, which raised questions in certain circles about his views on the Trinity. His sermons on sexuality had frustrated LGBTQ advocates, while his conciliatory tone frustrated some conservative critics. His son's 2009 arrest, during a police sting, had already put his family under a media microscope once before, and think pieces at the time openly questioned whether the moment exposed hypocrisy in his ministry. Prosperity gospel critics had spent years scrutinizing his wealth, his properties, and his companies. In other words, Jakes had a built-in audience of skeptics primed to believe the worst the moment a new controversy appeared, and a built-in audience of admirers ready to fight back. That combination is rocket fuel for virality. Controversy plus a divided audience equals views. What makes this particular case different from an ordinary celebrity rumor cycle is the scale and the method behind it. Jakes has said publicly that the flood of content making these claims was not organic. In a July 2025 appearance on the Money and Wealth podcast with John Hope Bryant, Jakes stated that more than 44,000 AI-driven accounts had been unleashed against him in the wake of the 2024 lawsuit. He claimed that roughly 98% of the content flooding platforms, like TikTok tying him to the Combs scandal, was AI-generated. If that figure is accurate, it describes something closer to a coordinated influence operation than an ordinary viral rumor. Real misinformation campaigns increasingly use networks of automated or semi-automated accounts to post variations of the same claim across multiple platforms simultaneously, creating the illusion of a groundswell of independent voices all saying the same thing. To a casual viewer scrolling through TikTok or YouTube, seeing the same claim repeated by dozens of different accounts feels like confirmation. In reality, it can be a small number of actors, or even automated systems, generating volume rather than truth. Jake said the swarm brought real pain to his family and added pressure during what would soon become a serious personal health crisis. He also said that after investigation, federal authorities found nothing connecting him to the lurid claims being spread. But by the time any of that clarification reached the public, the videos had already been viewed by millions of people, many of whom never saw a follow-up, a correction, or a retraction. Rather than simply issuing a denial and hoping the story would fade, Jake's legal team pursued a more aggressive strategy, identifying the people behind the claims. On December 19, 2024, his attorney, Dustin Push, filed a petition in federal court in Northern California seeking to force Google to identify the operators of 4 YouTube channels. According to the filing, those channels were based in Pakistan, South Africa, the Philippines, and Kenya, and had posted videos linking Jake's to the Combs scandal using fake thumbnails, spam tactics, and fabricated sexual claims designed to drive views. The filing noted that takedown requests aimed at these videos had been pending for nearly a year with little success, illustrating just how difficult it is for a public figure, even one with significant legal resources, to get harmful, false content removed once it starts spreading internationally. Around the same time, Jake's filed a separate lawsuit against a former pastor named Dwayne Youngblood, whose accusations had been aired on the online program Larry Reed Live in late 2024. That case involved a different set of allegations entirely, but it added another layer to a news cycle where TD Jakes and lawsuit were already appearing together constantly, further blurring the line in the public's mind between separate legal matters that had nothing to do with one another. The legal filings themselves rarely get the same viral treatment as the original accusations. A federal court petition seeking to unmask anonymous YouTube accounts does not come with a dramatic thumbnail or a shocking title. It does not trigger the same algorithmic reward. So even as Jakes fought back through the legal system, the public conversation around him online continued to be dominated by the original, unproven claims rather than by his response to them. On May 5, 2025, Sean Combs was convicted on federal charges related to prostitution transportation, though he was acquitted of the more serious racketeering and sex trafficking charges prosecutors had originally pursued. Jakes was never named as a defendant in any of the criminal proceedings against Combs. He was never charged with a crime in connection with that case at all. Logically, this should have been the moment the rumors around Jakes died down. The central figure in the scandal had gone through an actual criminal trial, and Jakes' name had not appeared as a co-defendant anywhere in it. But logic is not how misinformation cycles work. By that point, the TD Jakes arrested narrative had already taken on a life independent of the facts that supposedly inspired it. New videos kept appearing with new claims, that his son had confirmed rumors online, that he had been arrested for fraud, that a completely separate pastor named Gino Jennings had filed a lawsuit that somehow proved his guilt. Each of these claims traces back to nothing, no court record, no verified news report, no statement from any law enforcement agency. They are simply new packaging for the same unfounded story, repackaged every few months to catch a fresh wave of algorithmic attention. Fact-checking outlets tried to intervene. Independent fact-check articles published in the wake of the original 2024 rumors confirmed plainly that Jakes had not been arrested and explicitly warned readers to verify claims like this against credible, reputable news sources rather than viral social posts. Those fact-checks exist. They are findable, but they do not have the reach of a video titled TD Jakes has just been sentenced to life in prison, and that asymmetry is precisely the problem. To his credit, And in a move that stands out in an era where public figures often let their legal teams do all the talking, Jakes did not hide from the conversation entirely. On June 25, 2025, he directly addressed one specific detail that had been circulating: whether he had ever attended any of Combs's parties at all. He confirmed that he had briefly stopped by a birthday party for Combs, staying for roughly 30 minutes with staff members present, sometime around 2 p.m. He was direct in denying any involvement in criminal or sexual activity of any kind. That kind of specific, on-the-record admission and denial together is unusual, and it matters. It shows a public figure trying to separate a mundane, verifiable fact, a brief appearance at a birthday party, from the much darker and entirely unproven claims that had metastasized around it online. But even that clarification struggled to outrun the earlier, more sensational claims. A spokesperson had already called the broader allegations false and baseless as far back as August 15, 2024. Correction after correction went out. None of them traveled as far or as fast as the original lie, because that is simply not how virality works. A false claim gets a head start measured in months. A correction gets a footnote. While all of this was unfolding, Jakes's body was under its own kind of siege. On November 24, 2024, during a Sunday service at the Potter's house, Jakes preached for roughly 90 minutes before suddenly collapsing in his chair while praying. The moment was captured on video and spread widely, this time for reasons that had nothing to do with fabricated scandal and everything to do with genuine concern. He could be seen shaking and dropping his microphone as staff rushed the stage. Months later, in a March 26, 2025 interview with Craig Melvin on Today, Jakes revealed the full picture. He had suffered a massive heart attack caused by a clot blocking blood flow to the right side of his heart. He told Melvin that adrenaline had carried him through the sermon without him realizing how serious the situation was until he was already in the ambulance, and that doctors told him 5 minutes further delay could have been fatal. He had experienced none of the classic warning signs people are taught to expect: no crushing chest pain, no numbness, which made the near miss even more unsettling in hindsight. His legal team has directly connected the stress of the ongoing accusations and viral misinformation to the physical toll that led to that collapse. Whether or not a causal link can ever be proven in a medical sense, the timeline itself tells a story. A man fighting off a coordinated flood of fabricated claims about his personal conduct, in the middle of separate and serious sexual abuse allegations from the Youngblood brothers, all while carrying the ordinary pressures of running a massive ministry. And then, in the middle of that storm, his heart nearly stopped on a stage in front of thousands of people and a live stream audience far larger than that. It is worth pausing here to untangle something the internet has spent 2 years tangling up. There are, in reality, 2 entirely separate threads involving T.D. Jakes since 2024, and much of the confusion, and a great deal of the traffic driving these viral videos, comes from conflating them into one story. The first thread is the Diddy-adjacent rumor mill: unverified claims about parties, secret behavior, and guilt by association stemming from one sentence in someone else's lawsuit. No court has ever found Jakes connected to criminal conduct in that case. No charges were filed against him. The FBI, according to Jakes's own account, found nothing tying him to those claims. The second thread is the Youngblood allegations, which are a real and separate legal matter. Dwayne Youngblood, a registered sex offender, alleged in televised interviews in late 2020 that Jakes made unwanted advances toward him decades earlier, in the mid-1980s, when Youngblood was a teenager. His brother Richard added a further account in a January 2025 affidavit describing an incident during a church trip sometime between 1986 and 1988. Jakes's team has firmly denied these accounts and characterized them as an extortion attempt, pointing to a November 15, 2024 demand letter requesting $6 million before the allegations went public. Jakes filed a defamation lawsuit against Dwayne Youngblood the day after his health collapse. These are civil allegations, not criminal charges, and they remain contested in court rather than resolved. But when a headline compresses, T.D. Jakes accused of decades-old misconduct by 2 brothers, and T.D. Jakes randomly linked to Diddy's parties by an unrelated lawsuit into a single blur of T.D. Jakes scandal, It becomes almost impossible for an average viewer to tell which claims have any legal weight behind them at all, let alone which ones, if any, have actually been proven. Clarity is not what drives clicks. Conflation is. The T.D. Jakes case is not really unique to T.D. Jakes. It is a case study in how modern misinformation works, and the mechanics apply just as easily to a politician, a business leader, or an ordinary private citizen who suddenly finds themselves at the center of an online storm. First, proximity gets treated as proof. Being named in someone else's lawsuit, attending the same event as a controversial figure, or simply sharing a headline with someone accused of wrongdoing is not evidence of guilt. But online, proximity often functions exactly like guilt in the public's mind, because most viewers do not click through to read the underlying legal filing. They read the headline and move on, and the headline is often engineered to imply far more than the facts support. Second, volume simulates credibility. When someone sees the same claim repeated across dozens of videos and accounts, their brain treats that repetition as independent verification, even when the repetition is coming from automated systems, copycat channels chasing the same trending keywords, or a coordinated campaign rather than genuinely separate sources doing their own reporting. Third, corrections cannot outrun accusations. Every fact check, every legal filing, every on-the-record denial in this story was real, documented, and available to anyone who looked for it. None of them matched the reach of the original false claims, because platforms are not built to reward accuracy. They are built to reward attention. And a debunking video will almost never generate the same visceral reaction as the original shocking claim it is correcting. Fourth, once a narrative takes hold, it becomes self-sustaining. Fresh videos on this topic keep appearing years after the original story, recycling the same unproven claims with new titles and thumbnails, because the audience for T.D. Jakes' scandal content already exists, and creators know exactly how to feed it. It no longer matters whether new facts have emerged. The rumor has become its own genre. Strip away the noise, and here is what is actually documented on the record, and verifiable through court filings and mainstream reporting as of 2026. T.D. Jakes was named, but not accused of a crime, in a lawsuit filed by Rodney Jones against Sean Combs in early 2024. He was never charged criminally in connection with that case. Combs was convicted on lesser charges in May 2025, and Jakes was not implicated in that verdict. Jakes has acknowledged a brief appearance at one of Combs's parties while denying any wrongdoing. He has pursued legal action, including a federal petition to unmask anonymous YouTube accounts spreading fabricated claims about him, and has publicly stated that tens of thousands of AI-driven accounts were used to flood social platforms with false content tying him to the scandal. Separately, he faces civil allegations of decades-old sexual misconduct from two